What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 71. We have Curtis Blaydes going against Sergei Pavlovich.
I need all the wins, yeah. All that and all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. We are back at the Apex here. It's been a while since we've been in the Apex, but yeah, we're back for a 12-fight card. We were supposed to have 13 fights, but the Ricky Simone Song Yadong fight got moved to next week, and that is next week's main event. So yeah, 12-fight card, not the best card in the world, also not the worst card in the world. I actually like it quite a bit, especially this main event, Curtis Blaydes, Sergei Pavlovich, and there's a lot of fights, throughout the card that I think are going to be very fun. And we are back in the Apex, which I think only leads to more violence, so that should be fun as well. I think there's a lot of violent spots sticking out for this card, so can't wait to talk about all of that. Before we get into the picks, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate that a ton. I'll be posting more content throughout the week. DraftKings, betting breakdown, live streams Friday and Saturday, lots of stuff going on. But yeah, other than that, you guys can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. You guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, my DMs are always open there. And don't forget to sign up on DFSbythenumbers.com. I have quite a few bets already. It's going to be kind of a heavy card for me. Lots of props that are sticking out this card as well. So looking to make some money for some UFC Vegas 71 here. But with all that out of the way, I say we get into the first fight of the card, and we have Danaa going against Brady Hiestand. We will start with Danaa, who is 33 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 12-4 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Brady Hiestand, he is 23 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 6-2, and he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. And yeah, we have some pretty big line movement on this one. So Danaa, he was a much bigger favorite. He opened up around minus 200, and he's currently sitting at minus 135. And then Brady Hiestand, he opened up around plus 180 at one point, plus 175, and he's currently sitting at plus 115. So money's coming in on Brady Hiestand here. And yeah, both these guys are training at very good camps as of late, it looks like. Looks like Brady Hiestand moved with Merab and those guys, so that's a great place to train, especially with the style of Brady Hiestand, who kind of goes out there and like a Merab, who's just 100% wrestling the entire time and doesn't get tired. So that's good. And then on the flip side, you got Danaa, who's training at Fight Ready, which I think is a great fit for him. And I think it's a great fit for him in terms of this fight as well. So yeah, Brady Hiestand, 23 years old, obviously very young, very green, especially in the striking defense. He's very hittable. He's a tough guy, but he has been dropped several times. He's been knocked out before as well. I don't like that against Danaa. And I guess there's some question marks here, like what does Danaa's takedown defense look like? What does his get-up game look like? And we really haven't seen that other than in his debut against Alatang Lee, where Alatang Lee was able to take him down 3 times in the 3rd round. But outside of that, his takedown defense has looked pretty solid. So really, it's all going to come down to whether or not Brady Hiestand is going to be able to take down and control Danaa across 15 minutes without getting his chin touched. What worries me about Brady in this matchup is at any point when this fight's on the feet, at any point when this fight's at range, he's going to be a massive liability. He's getting dropped by Ricky Turcios. He got dropped by Fernie Garcia. Well, guess what? Danaa hits much harder than Fernie Garcia and Ricky Turcios probably combined. Danaa has incredible power, and I don't like the striking defense of Brady Hiestand. So I think for Brady to win this fight, he's going to have to go out there and fight a perfect fight, which it could happen. I just think at some point, Danaa is going to land a big shot and put Brady's lights out here. So give me Danaa. I'm going to take him to win by first-round knockout. I think his power is going to give a very hittable and green Brady Hiestand a lot of problems here, and I think Danaa gets the early first-round finish here in this one. All right, we're going to move on to my favorite fight with my favorite fighter, Priscilla Cachoeira. She has taken on Karine Silva. Look at that afro there on Karine Silva. She's 29 years old. Silva, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach, 15-4, and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Priscilla Cachoeira, she is 34 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach, 12-4 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So listen to these nicknames. I think both these nicknames for each fighter is very fitting. Priscilla Cachoeira, the zombie girl. They call her the zombie girl because she is a zombie in there. She's willing to eat a million punches to give a couple punches. She hits very hard, and she can be hit a lot. Her strike and defense is non-existent, but that's okay. She's very tough. She's going to eat those shots, right? And then Karine Silva, her nickname is Killer, and I think that's very fitting because in 15 wins, I think all 15 of them have came inside the distance. So yeah, she's very dangerous on the feet. She has a lot of power, and then on the mat, very, very good submission game. We take a look at the odds here. Karine Silva, she is currently sitting around minus 190. Priscilla Cachoeira is currently sitting at plus 165. Silva opened at minus 250, so some money is coming in on Priscilla Cachoeira. And yeah, it's going to be a fun fight first and foremost. Every single Priscilla Cachoeira fight is a very fun fight. It's always entertaining. But I think Karine Silva has a very clear path to victory here. And that path to victory is getting the fight down to the mat. The one thing Priscilla Cachoeira struggles with is the ground game. Her takedown defense is not great, and then her ground game is quite frankly atrocious. So if somebody can get on top of her, like a Jillian Robertson, like a Valentina Shevchenko, they're going to have a lot of success, and both those fighters did. Both those fighters finished Cachoeira, and if Karine Silva is able to get on top of Cachoeira, I think the fight is going to be over shortly after. I don't think Cachoeira is going to have nothing to offer off of her back against Karine Silva. If it turns out Silva cannot get this fight down to the mat, I think Cachoeira is going to have an opportunity to find a knockout, especially later the fight goes on. We saw Silva go into the second round in the Contender Series and really start to slow down. Luckily, she was able to get like a guillotine when her opponent shot in, but yeah, she was clearly starting to slow down because she's not used to going later into the fight. On the feet, it's going to be an absolute banger. Both these fighters have power on the feet, and then both these fighters have no strike and defense to speak of. Like Karine Silva thus far, in her first two fights in the UFC, she's showing, between UFC and Contender Series, she's showing a 35% striking defense, which is very bad. And I think it was like 25%, something like that, against Polyana Battaglia on the feet. Like, Karine Silva showed no strike and defense. And then Priscilla Cachoeira, of course, has a 46% strike and defense, that in a higher sample size, which is also pretty terrible. She's willing to eat shots. So both these fighters willing to eat shots. Both these fighters have a lot of power, but I think the difference is going to be the ground game. One of these fighters has a very dangerous submission game, very dangerous ground game overall, and that's Karine Silva. And then the other fighter, just not good on the mat, and that's Priscilla Cachoeira. So give me Karine Silva to get the first round takedown and finish Priscilla Cachoeira shortly after. But if this fight does get extended, I think it's going to get very interesting. But yeah, honestly, one of my favorite fights on the card here. I think it's going to be an absolute banger, but give me Silva, submission, round one. Moving on, we have Francis Marshall going against William Gomis. We have Francis Marshall, 24 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach, 7-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. William Gomis, he is 25 years old, 6 foot, with a 73-inch reach, 11-2 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We will take a look at the odds here, and we see that Francis Marshall opened up minus 400 for some reason. He's currently minus 205, and then William Gomis opened up plus 330. He is currently plus 175. So yeah, not sure what was going on with that opener, because I think this is going to be a semi-close fight. Went and watched all the tape on William Gomis, and honestly, I wasn't too impressed. In terms of the striking, I think he's a solid striker, but you'll notice in pretty much every single fight, he's just backing up to the back of the cage. Like I said, solid striker, but just shows really not a ton of aggression on the feet. He can wrestle, and he showed that off in his UFC debut. And that's good. He's a good wrestler, but I don't know if he's going to be the better wrestler in this matchup, though. I have seen William Gomis taken down here or there, and I think that's going to be a clear path to victory for Francis Marshall. In terms of the striking, I like the forward pressure of Marshall. I think he's the harder hitter as well. I think he's going to be more aggressive on the feet, and I think all those are going to matter. And then in terms of who's going to win the wrestling exchanges, I kind of lean to Marshall as well. So do I agree with the minus 400 opener there? No, I do not. But I think this is a winnable fight here for Marshall. I think he's going to go out there, pressure William Gomis, get him down to the mat. But I think this could play out somewhat close. Gomis, I think he's pretty solid, but I think Marshall just has a little more dog in him, I'd say. A little more aggressiveness, I'd say. So give me Francis Marshall. I'll take him to win a decision here. Should be another solid fight in this one. All right, moving on. This is my 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week, a fight that I just want nothing to do with. I mean, this is a complete mess. We have Junior Tafa going against Mohammed Usman. We got Junior Tafa, 26 years old, 6'3", no reach there available on him, 4-0 in his only 4 MMA fights. Mohammed Usman, 34 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach, 8-2 and 4-1 in his last 2 fights. So this is probably the craziest line movement I've seen in a while. Junior Tafa opened up plus 100 instantly, went all the way to minus 300, and then it was Sunday, and I was sitting there, and Mohammed Usman was a big dog. Mohammed Usman was, I think, like plus 190, plus 195, and then an hour or even like less than an hour later, he went from plus 190, plus 195 to minus 110. I kid you not. It was one of the most wild line movements I've ever seen in my life. And I was like considering betting Mohammed Usman around that plus 190. I was actually like right on in terms of pulling the trigger, like right there, about to do it. And then I kind of hesitated a little bit, and then, like I said, like less than an hour later, the line was completely gone. So it is what it is, which is fine. I don't really want to bet this fight because this fight's an absolute mess. A lot of people are very confident in Junior Tafa, and I don't get the confidence there. This guy had his MMA debut, I think, 8 months ago. So he's been fighting MMA in less than a year. There's not a lot of footage out there on him. Went and watched all his MMA fights, and I think there's only like 1 or 2 available. And in some of these fights, he is getting taken down, which is something I wanted to look for. He's able to get back up, but the level of competition is not great. I think Junior Tafa is the much better striker. I don't even think it's close here. Mohammed Usman, he showed some power in the Zach Pauga fight, but I don't think he's some murderous power puncher who's knocking out everybody. He's actually more of a decision guy. A lot of decisions on the record of Mohammed Usman. And I think for Usman to win this fight, it's going to be to wrestle, which he hasn't shown a amazing ability to do, but he has shown it. I went and watched one of his fights. I think it was in Titan FC, where he wrestled from the jump. He wrestled for the full 3 rounds. He was able to get takedowns, no problem. And I think that's going to be the path to victory here for Mohammed Usman. For Junior Tafa, I think it's a knockout. I think it's an early knockout, but as this fight goes on, I do question the cardio a little bit. There's not a lot of tape on Junior Tafa getting too extended. You can go and watch his kickboxing fights where he does get extended. He does slow down a little bit, but not sold on the cardio of Tafa, not sold on the takedown defense of Tafa. And this is an MMA fight. If this was a kickboxing fight, you'd favor Tafa all day, but Mohammed Usman's going to have a path to victory, and that's to wrestle. I can't be too confident in Mohammed Usman, though, because I think he's very bad, to be honest. I thought he got kind of lucky in the Zach Pauga fight. He was clearly losing that fight. He looked awful in there. Then he landed a big shot. He didn't go for any. I think he went for 1 takedown in the Zach Pauga fight. He's going to need to go for takedowns here. If he doesn't, he's going to lose easily. But if he does go for takedowns, the path is going to be there. So I'm going to take Mohammed Usman to make this ugly, take this fight down to the mat consistently, and win a greasy decision here. But I want nothing to do with this fight, to be honest. So staying away, but give me Mohammed Usman for the decision win. Oh boy, Karol Rosa going against Norma Dumont. We have Dumont, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach, 8-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Karol Rosa, 28 years old, 5'5", with a 67.5-inch reach, 16-4 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here, and we have some more interesting line movement, where Norma Dumont was, I believe, it was Karol Rosa who opened up as the favorite, and now she is like minus 105. No, I got that mixed up. Karol Rosa opened up minus 225, currently minus 105, and Norma Dumont opened up as the dog, plus 190, currently minus 115. Sorry, the website was messing with me. Anyway, this is a fight where, I think a pick'em's about right. I think it's a very close fight. I'm not high on Norma Dumont, but I think the most important thing to note here is this fight is going to be at featherweight. I don't like that for Karol Rosa. So Karol Rosa is going to be coming up a weight class, and I think size is probably going to matter in this one. On the feet, I favor Karol Rosa. She's a lot more active. She throws a ton. I think she lands like over 8 significant strikes per minute. So on the feet, Karol Rosa should be the minute winner just because she's going to be doing a lot more. And then we have Norma Dumont, a little bit more lower volume. She has some power, but I think where this fight's going to be won and lost is the grappling. I think whoever's going to have success in the grappling is going to win this fight. And the tricky part about that is I could see either fighter having success there. Like we saw Norma Dumont taken down 6 times by Macy Chiasson. We saw Karol Rosa taken down multiple times by Sarah McMahon. So I guess it's just going to come down to who's going to be able to get on top here, because I do think this fight's hitting the mat one way or another. And I guess I just lean with the size of Norma Dumont ever so slightly, but just no confidence in it. Like, this is about as 50-50 as you can get. But just due to the size of Norma Dumont, I'm going to take her. I'm going to say she does get takedowns here. She does get on top. She uses that size to kind of win minutes on the ground. But just no confidence in this fight whatsoever. I'm going to be passing on it from a betting perspective. But I'm going to take Norma Dumont to win this one by decision. Probably a split decision as well. All right, bantamweight fight here. We got Montel Jackson going against Rani Yahya. We got Montel Jackson, 30 years old, 5'10" with a 75.5-inch reach, 12-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Rani Yahya, 38 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach, 28-10-1 and 3-1-1 in his last 5 fights. We have Montel Jackson, who is the biggest favorite on the card. He is currently sitting at -550. Rani Yahya is sitting at +420. And yeah, should be a very winnable fight here for Montel Jackson. Rani Yahya has, honestly, I was looking through his record, like, Rani Yahya has not fought the best competition in the world. Like, he's fighting some, like, really low-level guys at times. Like, there's not a ton of big names in terms of the record of Rani Yahya. Yeah, he lost to Ricky Simone. And other than that, just kind of low-level guys. Like, as of late, Ray Rodriguez, he beat Ray Rodriguez. He beat Luke Sanders. He beat Henry Briones, Matthew Lopez, just some low-level guy. Like, this is going to be a tough matchup for Rani Yahya, especially as a 38-year-old bantamweight. I think we have seen a little bit of a decline in Rani Yahya, although he was able to go out there and get a win in his last fight, but that win was a little bit over a year ago. I don't like that. We've seen him dropped against Kung Ho Kong. We saw him drop twice in the first round against Ricky Simone, and he's going against a guy who all he does is drop people in Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson, this dude has a ton of knockdowns. I think it's like 11 or 12 total. Against Julio Arce, knocked him down. Against JP Bays, knocked him down 4 times. He knocked down Jesse Strader twice. He knocked down Brett Johns. He knocked down Felipe Calor. So he's on a little bit of a knockdown streak, and I think that knockdown streak absolutely continues here. Montel Jackson's going to have a 7.5 reach advantage here. He's going to be much bigger than Rani Yahya, much younger than Rani Yahya. I think this is a terrible matchup for Rani Yahya. For Rani Yahya to have any type of success here, he's going to have to get this fight down to the mat, and I just don't really see that happening. I think if this fight does hit the mat, it's probably because Montel Jackson makes a mistake and knocks down Yahya, goes down to the mat with him, and if he does that, he's going to be in danger. Rani Yahya, 5th degree BJJ black belt, but even then, I think he'll be all right. But yeah, it should be an easy win for Montel Jackson. Just Jackson stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, knock this guy down, let him back up, knock him down, let him back up, and then knock him down, and then after that third knockdown, I think the fight's going to be over. First round knockout here for Montel Jackson. I think he gets Yahya out of there early. All right, next we have Ricky Glenn going against Christos Giagos. Close fight here. We got Ricky Glenn, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 70.5-inch reach, 22-6-2, and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. Christos Giagos, he is 33 years old, 5'10", with a 71.5-inch reach, 19-10, and he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So Ricky Glenn opened up -225, currently -160. And Christos Giagos opened up +190, currently +140. And yeah, kind of a close fight here. The thing with Christos Giagos, this is a guy that always looks pretty solid early. I just always have concerns about him slowing down as that fight goes on, especially somebody that's going to give him resistance, and that seems to be like a guy in Ricky Glenn here. Glenn, I don't think he's the best fighter in the world, but he does have solid takedown defense. He has a very solid get-up game. This guy's hard to take down and hold down, and that's going to be a problem here against Christos Giagos. So yeah, I see Giagos probably coming out here, having success, taking down Glenn popping back up, Giagos taking him back down, Glenn popping back up, and then as the fight goes on, I think we just see Giagos slow down as he typically does, whereas Ricky Glenn, he's not going to slow down. So I think it's a solid matchup for Glenn, but it's a matchup I feel like Giagos can make very, very competitive, it's at least early on. If Giagos had a 15-minute gas tank that he has shown in the past, I'd probably even pick him here. It's just I can't trust Giagos to go a full 15 against a guy in Ricky Glenn who's absolutely going to give him resistance in this fight. So give me Ricky Glenn here. I'll take Ricky Glenn to win by decision. I think he probably loses the first even, but wins that second and third as Giagos starts to slow down. So give me Glenn by decision here. All right, moving on to probably one of my my favorite fights on the card. We have Jeremiah Wells going against Matt Semelsberger. We have Jeremiah Wells, 36 years old, 5'9", with a 74-inch reach, 11-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Matthew Semelsberger, 30 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach, 11-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. It is a straight pick'em. We have a couple pick'ems on the card. We have the Mohammed Usman Junior Tafa fight to pick'em. We have the Karol Rosa Norma Dumont fight. That's a pick'em as well. And then we have the Matt Semelsberger Jeremiah Wells fight, which is a pick'em. We have Jeremiah Wells, who did open up as a -140 favorite. And we have Matt Semelsberger, who opened up as a +120 dog. So money is coming in on Matt Semelsberger. And yeah, this is a tough fight to call. A lot of these pick'em fights on the card are tough to call. And this is absolutely one of them. Jeremiah Wells, super impressed. He's a Renzo Gracie Philly guy, so he's training with, Sean Brady, Joe Pfeiffer, Pat Sabatini, those guys over there, Andre Petrosky. Very, very, very good fighter here in Jeremiah Wells. The thing I don't like is he is 36 years old, but honestly, he looks probably the best he's ever had. So I'm not completely concerned about the 36-year-old age, but he's going out there. He's starching guys. 3 finishes in the UFC thus far, looking very good. He's very dangerous, a ton of power, very good grappling game as well. I guess the one question mark I have for Jeremiah Wells is what happens if somebody's able to survive that first round. That first round and a half, what is Jeremiah Wells going to look like in that late second, third round? Because Jeremiah Wells puts everything into all of his shots. He's going out there, balls to the wall, with the wrestling, with, trying to take his opponent's head off. And my concern is if this fight does get extended, what is it going to look like down the stretch? But yeah, Jeremiah Wells went out there in his last fight and starched Court McGee, who, Court McGee is a guy that's just next level tough. I think he'd only been knocked out once prior to that, and Jeremiah Wells knocked him out in like a minute. So that was very impressive there. I'm going to pick Wells here, I think, just because I feel like he has more paths to win. I think both guys are absolutely live for a knockout. Both these guys hit so hard, but I think it's going to be Wells who can mix in the takedowns, and I think he's going to be the better grappler here as well. So I can see him taking down Semelsberger, maybe finding a submission or just winning minutes on top. But again, my concern is if Semelsberger does survive that first round and a half, that early storm, if Wells does slow down, it's going to be trouble. So I'm going to take Wells to finish him early, though. I'm going to say Wells wins this fight by first round knockout, but this could be a good live betting spot if Semelsberger is able to survive the first round. But I'm going to take Wells to get him out of there early. I'll say first round knockout for Jeremiah Wells. It should be a very, very fun fight for as long as it lasts. All right. Moving on, we got Lasmin Lucindo going against Brogan Walker. We got Lasmin, who is 21 years old, 5'3", with a 66-inch reach, 13-5, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Brogan Walker, 33 years old, 5'4", with a 67-inch reach, 7-3, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. So we have Lasmin Lucindo open up -300, currently -340. Brogan Walker open up +250, currently +280. And yeah, I mean, this is a fight that scares me a little bit, and that's just because we have a WMMA fighter who is 21 years old, and she's a -340 favorite. Everything I've watched, everything I've seen, tells me that Lasmin should go out there and starch Brogan Walker. And Brogan Walker, it was weird because, I was actually somewhat impressed with her prior to her UFC debut against Juliana Miller. I was somewhat impressed with her. I thought she was okay. Just okay, not great anywhere, but just solid. I thought she'd be enough to beat Juliana Miller, who I thought was very green, not that good, and it was actually the other way around. It was Juliana Miller who went out there and just beat Brogan Walker from pillar to post. I mean, just destroyed her, made her look like terrible. Juliana Miller just took her down at will. Brogan Walker showed a 0% takedown defense in that Juliana Miller fight, and then Juliana Miller fights Veronica Hardy. And Veronica Hardy goes out there and dominates Juliana Miller. It makes her look terrible. So it's a weird fight. Lasmin Lucindo is a fighter who I said is only 21 years old. She's still very, very young, but she went out there in her debut against Haregi and looked good in the striking, which was weird because I saw no striking of Lucindo prior to that Haregi fight. But no, she went out there and she competed in the striking against a very good striker in Haregi. So. But what I liked most about Lasmin Lucindo was that grappling. She gets on top. She's very dangerous. Great ground and pound. I think that could absolutely come into play. Like I said, we saw Juliana Miller go out there and take down Brogan Walker at will, and destroy her. So I don't know. I have a kind of a bad feeling about because we can never be too confident here. But I'm going to take Lasmin Lucindo to take down Brogan Walker, beat her up, and eventually finish the fight on top with some ground and pound. I mean, Walker just looked atrocious in her matchup against Juliana Miller. Just looked terrible. Like, she looked awful. So I'm going to take Lucindo to get the first, I'll say second round. Second round, TKO. I think she's going to get on top. I think she's going to get that TKO in the second round there. But yeah, should be an interesting fight here. Moving on, we got Bobby Green going against Jared Gordon. We got Bobby Green, 36 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 29, 14-1, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Jared Gordon, 36 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach, 19-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We have Bobby Green, who is currently minus 255. Jared Gordon is currently plus 215, and yeah, I think it's a really, really good matchup here for Bobby Green. It's a very winnable matchup for Bobby Green. It's just, Bobby Green is a guy that it's always kind of hard to trust him, especially in the past. He's going out there, he's messing around, he's showboating. I don't want to say he's making mistakes, but he's just doing stupid stuff in the cage. But, I mean, this is a fight where he should be the better striker by a mile. You take a look at Jared Gordon, his striking numbers look actually really solid on paper. And then you go and look at who he's fighting against, and he's fighting, like, all grapplers. Like, this guy never fights strikers. You know, he fought Paddy Pimblett, grappler. Leonardo Santos, grappler. Grant Dawson, grappler. Joe Selecki, grappler. Chris Fishgold, grappler. I mean, he's fighting all grapplers throughout his career. No strikers, really. Bobby Green's a striker and a very good striker as well. So, yeah, I think Bobby Green cleanly wins the striking here. I don't think it's remotely competitive, honestly. I think the volume is going to be too much for Gordon. I think Bobby Green can actually land big shots, hurt Gordon, who's been knocked out 5 times in his career. And then in terms of the grappling, that's where I think Jared Gordon is probably going to want to take it here. I just think that's going to be easier said than done against Bobby Green, who Bobby Green has incredible takedown defense. I think it's like 72% takedown defense. Not only that, a very good get-up game. Not only that, he has good wrestling and grappling in his own right. So I just don't really see where Jared Gordon wins this fight outside of Bobby Green being a complete idiot in there. So, and outside of the judges robbing Bobby Green blind, which that is very much on the table, because this fight could very well go to decision, and the judges suck very bad. So outside of the judges not doing their job, and outside of Bobby Green not doing his job, I feel like this should be Bobby Green pretty easily here, however he wants. I'm actually going to take Bobby Green to win this fight by knockout. I think he's going to put it on Jared Gordon very early, and I think Bobby Green knocks him out within the first round. I think he's going to put a ton of volume on Jared Gordon, and I think Bobby Green gets him out of there. So give me Bobby Green first round knockout. I hope this doesn't go in the hands of the judges, because the judges will probably screw it up, but give me Bobby Green to get Jared Gordon out of there by knockout and give Jared Gordon his 6th knockout loss. All right, next we have a very interesting fight here. We got Brad Tavares going against Bruno Silva. We got Brad Tavares, 35 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, 19-7 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Bruno Silva, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 22-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We have Brad Tavares, who is the favorite, open at minus 130, currently minus 150. Bruno Silva open at plus 110, currently plus 130. And yeah, I guess I'm still shocked at what happened in Bruno Silva's last fight against Joel Mearshart. Bruno Silva showed up and just looked off in that fight. He never looked that bad before, so I don't know if he's is on a decline, or I don't know if it was just a one-off, a bad performance. But Bruno Silva went in there and he looked awful. He looked sluggish. He looked drunk. He looked like he was drinking all night with Keith Peterson. And I'm not sure what was going on with Bruno Silva that day. So if that same Bruno Silva shows up, yeah, he's going to get destroyed by Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares is going to 30-27 him, because Bruno Silva went out there and just, I don't know, he fought like he was drinking like all day, went to the bar and got in a fight. Like he looked awful. He was just swinging and missing badly, barely throwing anything. So I'm hoping, Bruno Silva comes in here, ready to go. If he does come in here ready to go and looks like he has in the past, I think it's a very winnable matchup for him. It's just which Bruno Silva shows up, the drunk Bruno Silva or the sober one. And if the sober one shows up, I think he can knock out Brad Tavares, who has been knocked out multiple times in the UFC. So yeah, it's kind of tricky in that aspect, but I'm going to take Bruno Silva here as the dog. I'm going to say he does knock out Brad Tavares, but that last performance for Bruno Silva definitely does scare me a little bit in terms of putting a ton of money on Bruno Silva in this matchup. So give me Bruno Silva. I'll say first round knockout. I think he knocks out Brad Tavares early on here. And now we have the main event. I did do a main event breakdown earlier on the week. If you guys want to check that out, went a little bit further, more into detail, but I'm going to be giving the condensed version here. We got Curtis Blaydes, Sergei Pavlovich. Curtis Blaydes, 32 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach, 17-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Sergei Pavlovich, 30 years old, 6'3", with an 84-inch reach, 17-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. We see that Curtis Blaydes is the favorite. He opened at -200, currently -175. Sergei Pavlovich opened at +170, currently +150. And yeah, I think this is about as 50-50 as it gets. I really don't see, how anybody could lay chalk in this matchup, honestly. Like, yes, Curtis Blaydes should be the favorite. Yes, Curtis Blaydes has a clear path to victory, but Sergei Pavlovich is super live to go out there and start Curtis Blaydes in the first 2 minutes. Like he is. I mean, Curtis Blaydes has kind of fell in love with the striking a little bit, and he does not want to strike here. I think Curtis Blaydes is a very good striker. I think his striking so underrated. It's just don't strike with Sergei Pavlovich. You got to take him down. The last time we did see Sergei Pavlovich taken down, his ground game looked awful. He looked like he kind of quit in there. Against Overeem in his debut, got taken down, and he just kind of turtled up and looked for a way out in that first round. And yeah, if Curtis Blaydes takes this fight down to the mat, the fight is going to be over very shortly after, unless Pavlovich has improved that ground game, which I imagine he has, but that still wasn't a good look. But Pavlovich, he's going to go out there and he's going to try to take off Curtis Blaydes' head, and he's going to try to do that within the first 2 minutes. If I am betting Curtis Blaydes here, I want him to shoot a takedown within the first 30 seconds to a minute. I don't want him to go out there and mess around on the feet with Sergei Pavlovich. Pavlovich is going to be so live in these first couple minutes to knock out Curtis Blaydes. So the big question is, does Curtis Blaydes take down Sergei Pavlovich before Pavlovich knocks out Curtis Blaydes? Which is going to happen first? And I think it's, close. I think it's 50-50. I think either outcomes are very live to happen. So I'm going to take Pavlovich here. I'm going to take him to knock out Blaydes in the very first round, more specifically like in the first 2 minutes. I think he's going to swarm Curtis Blaydes. I think he's going to hurt him. And after he hurts Curtis Blaydes, I think it's going to be too little too late to start to try to wrestle Sergei Pavlovich. And I think Pavlovich puts him out in the first 2 minutes. But if Blaydes takes him down, the fight's over shortly after. Pavlovich has shown no ground game from what we've seen so far in the UFC. So I think somebody's getting starched here one way or another, but give me Sergei Pavlovich to win this fight by first round knockout. And we did it. Kind of a shorter breakdown this week, only 12 fights. We were supposed to have 13, but we're going to break down the Simone fight next week for the main event next card. But yeah, guys, if you guys enjoy the content, be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll be going live Friday for the Final Thought stream, and then I'm going live Saturday 1 hour prior to the prelims for best bet. And yeah, that is about it. I think I have like 5 or 6 bets thus far, so we'll talk about those Friday and Saturday as well. Should be a solid betting card, more so from a prop perspective for me. But yeah, should be fun here. Back in the Apex, looking for some violence here. Best of luck, guys, for UFC Vegas 71, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.